Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, and I got the horizontal working. I figured that out. And I'm enabling comments, but I believe that you cannot do comments and the live chat at the same time. I could be wrong. I'm still exploring this. But after the live stream becomes a video and it's up, I can go in and enable chat, not the chat, the comments, which I'll do, but I'm going to make them, moderate. So in other words, I have to approve them, so I don't have to listen to the people, or you don't have to see the people cursing us and all the other stuff. So that's what I'll be doing. So I think that's as far as I can go with this. Every few months they change the controls. It's incredibly difficult to keep up. Not so long ago, I couldn't make it do horizontal no matter what I did. Now, I got it going horizontal again. All right. So, I'm Moshe coming to you from Israel, where I've lived for many years in the Galilee. It's June 1st. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be hot today. I'll have to put the air conditioning on a little while. It's 77 now. I got the dogs in here with me. And tomorrow we're going to hit 102. Monday 105, Tuesday 101, then down to 96, 97, 95, 90. It's probably going to stay hot now until sometime in late October, if the weather stays normal. This, I cannot guarantee you that the weather will stay normal. It's not normal. Okay. I'm going to go into the chat. Prophecy. Make sure we got sound and picture and things like that. What I'm going to do today, well, let me go get this fixed up first. The live stream. Please don't post in the live stream for 2 minutes or so I can get my posts up, okay? A lot of people come in and they don't hear it and they post, and that's okay. I don't get angry. Almost there, guys. It's not a big job here. Takes a minute or two. Okay, feel free to post in the chat if you want. Okay, what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a rather condensed summary of what's going on in the world in Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Europe. And there's a lot going on, plus America. And I don't have any real news on Central and South America or the Caribbean. And I don't have much going on in Africa except North Africa, a little bit, not much. Got some news about Egypt and Algeria, but it's minimal. Algeria is moving at the UN against Israel. The problem with Algeria is they're next door to Morocco, and Algeria is pretty close to Iran. I mean, they're buddies, not physically close. And they're next door to the east of Morocco, which could close the what do they call it, Straits of Gibraltar, blocking off the Mediterranean in a way the Houthis have done in Yemen. And months ago, Iran had IRGC troops in, I believe, in Morocco, and they definitely have them. I believe they have them in Algeria too. So we could see a blockage attempt at the Mediterranean Sea, which would bring things to a boiling point immediately. Okay, because then all the European nations couldn't get goods in and out because they go through that pincher point. Okay, and it's very narrow and it's easy to block it. They could do it with several missile launchers. They might even be able to do it with artillery, but they'll use missile launchers. It would be similar to Yemen in the Red Sea. Okay? It's been threatened, but it has not been done. Okay? So let me, because we're a Bible-believing site, let me do some praise and we'll proceed. Oh, after that, I'll do some Bible studies to illustrate where we're at. Coordinating it's kind of sort of with the current news, and you'll see we're very, very close. Not to a rapture, but to Zechariah 12, which is redemption. So, there is no God like Jehovah, 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 there is no God like Jehovah. There is no Messiah like Yeshua, 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 there is no Messiah like Yeshua. Okay. So, China continually, for many, many months now, tends to surround Taiwan with various numbers of naval vessels and various numbers of Chinese fighter planes that fly over and into Taiwan's airspace, which they don't have permission to do. And Taiwan goes on, on drills and launches planes and this and that. Now, this is happening, it must have happened 70, 100 times or 200 times. It's massive amount of occurrences. So, do you think the militaries like America, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea actually go into full scale alert when this happens? I don't, because it just wears them down. It becomes like another training exercise, So, I think it gets them worn down, and I think that's what China's doing. And then one day, the ships will be there, the planes will be there, and then the attack will start, and then more ships and more planes will come. It's only a 110-mile trip from China to Taiwan. That's the closest part of Taiwan, the mainland. And that is several hours for a ship. Ships probably run around 25 miles an hour troop transports. They've taken ferries, not a ferry that crosses a lake, or a 10, 15 mile trip. More like ferries that do an overnight trip, and they probably clock at least 20 miles an hour, if not 25. Big, bulky cruise ships clock, 25 nautical miles an hour, which is a little over 25 miles per hour. Or they do knots, I think. They call it knots, not nautical miles. So it's a little bit, it's probably 28 to 30 or something like that. So, 25 miles per hour is not an outlandish claim for these ferry boats, which China took a ton of them, many dozens of them, and converted them into troop transports. And when you're talking about a 5 hour trip, you don't have to have berths for them to sleep in. You don't need showers. You don't need a dining room. All you need is a place for them to sit down, walk around, go to the bathroom, drink water, and they bring their gear and they bring it in with them. And maybe they have a cargo hold where people would, as a ferry boat, put their vehicles, and they may put some armored vehicles in there too. And they probably have in excess of 200 of these by now. Massive amount. And they probably, depending on the boat, I would say get a low of 1,500 soldiers, probably to 3,000 or so per boat. And remember, if they're at war, they're going to run these ferry boats and then they're going to come back. They're going to fuel up, do any maintenance they have, upload them again with soldiers and equipment and go back. Maybe they change the crew, but they can just go round robin, and it's easy for China to give them air support. It's right by China mainland. So they don't need aircraft carrier jets, they just launch them off the mainland, A jet in an emergency is going to break the sound barrier and probably go about 1,200 miles an hour. Okay, now if you break that down, that means in a quarter of an hour they're going to go 300 miles. So that's 15 minutes. So in 7.5 minutes, they I lost my numbers. Hold on. A quarter of an hour would be 300 miles in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, in 7.5 minutes, they do 150 miles. So it'll only take the jets, depending where the boat is, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes to get over there. But they'll already be in the air, so it'd probably be more like 2, 3, 4 minutes. And they'll be following the ships. The ships will go in a convoy. They'll probably have a submarine escort and destroyers and missile cruisers. So they might launch a convoy of, 30 ships and send 2 or 3 destroyers and put 4 or 6 or 8 planes overhead. And it would be very hairy for somebody to try to sink these troop transports. The best way to do it would be a long-range missile. But that's tricky because you got to remember the boat's moving, and these people aren't idiots. They're not gonna move in a straight linear line. They're gonna do zigzags, random zigzags that they could probably program or do it manually. So they're going to be going, and then they may go that way, and then this way, and then that, So they're not going to be readily predictable, plus they're moving. Plus the sea could be bringing them up and down, and that can make things difficult for a side shot, because the boat's up here, and then it's down here, and it's up, it could go down 20 feet. So, that's the way they're going to do it, okay? And I was thinking they weren't going to do it. They were just going to scare America to get America to pull their military resources over there. Leaving America more vulnerable, but that's not working. So what they're doing is probably going to do the attack. And North Korea will attack South Korea. And that will be very dangerous for South Korea and deadly. There's an American military base before all this trouble started. It had 28,000 military in South Korea, and they put it somewhat beyond the distance that North Korean artillery could hit. North Korea uses a type of artillery that most countries don't bother with. It's called, the artillery shell has a rocket engine in it or a motor. So instead of the general maximum range of 25 miles for artillery, they can push it to 40 miles. Now, it is possible to build very large artillery pieces that don't need rocket propelled shells, and they could probably get over the 25 miles, perhaps even up to 40 or 50, I don't know. But during World War II and before, they built huge artillery pieces that could go pretty good distances. Now, I don't know if North Korea uses that or not. I don't have any idea, but I do know they were using rocket-propelled artillery shells and getting out to 40 miles. So the American base was built more than 40 miles away. They might have went 60 or 70 or something like that. I don't know the exact distance. I looked it up once, but to keep them out of the artillery range, because North Korea has a massive amount of artillery. But today, North Korea has a massive amount of rockets and missiles. So my take is they have missiles and rockets that could hit the American base. I would say probably a 9 on a 10 scale. Now, can they hit the American base with any accuracy, or the missile's just going to come in and land, four blocks this way, 4 blocks that way, So it's going to come in like in a half mile, it hit somewhere in a half mile or 1 mile circle, something like that, probably something like that, but it's probably still going to be landing on the base. I would say the base has multiple shelters that people could run to in an emergency that would be underground and fortified and be able to resist missiles easily. Now, if you start sending planes and you start using heavy bombs, like, 2,000-pound bombs, well, these bunkers may survive and they may not, but I think 500-pound bombs wouldn't bother them very much, or it wouldn't be much of a shelter. North Korea is not really competent and capable of doing airplane attacks on South Korea. China is, but not North Korea. Their aircraft would get shot down by the Taiwan Air Force and by anti-aircraft missiles. It would be a joke. But their artillery and their missiles are no joke. And they have a very substantial, poorly trained, poorly equipped military, but they're gung-ho and they got tons of them. And they're disposable assets in the greater scheme of things, so they can throw them at South Korea in, huge numbers. Japan will get into the fight. They have a formidable military, Navy, Air Force, infantry, and they will probably help South Korea, and they probably will help Taiwan, because if they don't, they know if China takes down South Korea, if North Korea takes out South Korea and China takes out Taiwan, they're next. They know that. So they'll get into the fight. America has a reasonably large amount of naval vessels and aircraft in the area there, the general area. And I don't know if Biden would actually fight to help Taiwan, because his word is worthless. So we don't know what he would do. We just don't know. Um, he may just say, this is too scary for me. I'm bringing the fleet home. And we don't need Taiwan, but I need the fleet and the soldiers and the Air Force back in America in case they attack us next. He could do that. Okay? And that is very close to happening. That could happen today. China television announced a few days ago in early June they were going to take Taiwan back. It's now June 1st. Early June would probably mean between now and June 10th. Are they dumb enough to announce something like this? Yeah, if they were trying to propaganda value, they'd announce it. So that could happen, and we don't know what Biden would or would not do. And he could send his American warships over there with missile launchers and aircraft carriers with planes, and he would give the Chinese tremendous casualties and equipment destruction. And they would probably give America a reasonably good amount of equipment destruction and a minimal amount of dead soldiers. Once China lands troops in Taiwan and they dig in, which could be, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, it can be hard as heck to get them out of there. Okay? Now we look at the Houthis. They've hit ships in the Mediterranean, the Sea of Aden, the Red Sea, and this and that. And I think it's about a day and a half ago, maybe 2 days ago, they took shots at the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier. They went after missiles and drones in the Red Sea. They were saying that 16 soldiers were killed and there was destruction. But America, CENTCOM, is saying they don't know what the Houthis are talking about. They didn't even admit the attack, which is a lie, because as soon as they get attacked, the Navy boats send a signal to lots of places, and they would probably ask for orders and instructions. So it was attacked, but CENTCOM subsequently came out with a press release that there was no damage to the ship and or the crew. And they reiterated it was drones and missiles, and some fell in the sea, and they had takedowns and stuff like that. Well, that's too spicy. So their first comment was probably untrue, because I imagine within 60 to 90 seconds of the attack, the Pentagon knew about it. Or definitely within 3 or 4 minutes, and this was hours later. So there is a possibility that the ship was hit and soldiers were damaged or hurt. I heard there were 16 killed and so many casualties, 30-something casualties, and the ship was hit. It is not unlike America to lie about that. So it could have happened. I don't know. Beats me. The Houthi general was making all sorts of press releases, going all around the world about what they did, and they said that if all the nations, America and our allies, come and attack us, we're not going to stop. Now, he's a throwaway drone for the the axis of China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, and they have throwaway, assets. And China doesn't quite see North Korea as a throwaway asset. It sees it as a serious asset. And they see Iran as a serious asset. They don't see Iran as a throwaway. Countries, well, the Houthis, the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, those are throwaways. They're not worried about them. Yemen is not a vital anything for them, you know. So we'll have to see if we get more information as the days roll on, if the Houthis really did hit a ship and kill people. I don't know. But I don't think the Houthis are gifted in the cerebral cortex area. So they might do something like this and beat the drum about how powerful they are and how mad they are. Iran directs them. Now, this is what you have to understand. The reason Iran got the Houthis to escalate is for sure in part about Rafah, but it's also about Russia, because Russia and Iran are allies, as is China and North Korea. They're all tied together. So Russia wanted to get, the heat off of him. So the Houthis put that on. What they're trying to do is get America and the UK and their allies to take military assets, planes, Navy ships, soldiers, artillery, armor, and come down to Ukraine and start fighting. Um, I was detecting some spiritual warfare coming my way, so I had to take care of it. All right. What they want Biden to do is go to the UK and bring a big force of 300,000 and come into Yemen and start a multi-month war with them in Yemen. They've been unable to get this so far. Now, if they really did hit an aircraft carrier and kill sailors and wound them and damage the aircraft carrier, it is likely that Biden will do one of two things: move the capital ships, like the aircraft carrier, out of the Red Sea, put it someplace in the theater where it's safe. And that could be anywhere. It could be the Sea of Oman, the Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean, who knows, Goes back to Virginia or something, I don't know. And that just leaves some, junky destroyers and missile cruisers that they have a lot of over there, maybe with one submarine to help protect them, and that's it. Uh, Losing an aircraft carrier is a massive problem for America, and it's expensive, like all get up. So they're not interested in doing that. You know, you got billions of dollars just in aircraft on an aircraft carrier without even taking into account the ship. Okay? So they're not very interested in seeing aircraft carriers go down at Davy Jones's locker. They don't want to see that. What is Biden going to do? I don't know. Well, I do know. I'll explain it to you. Actually, I do know what he's going to do. It won't work, but I'll tell you what he's going to do. So, right about the time this happened, and right about the time Trump was convicted of all 34 counts, curiously, Trump's fundraising website took in I think 24 hours after the conviction, it took in $52 million of campaign contributions, which is astounding. They weren't planning on that. That means more TV time for Trump. And Trump is probably 2 to 3 times a better speaker than Biden. So that's dangerous for Biden. Now, that's the first 24 hours. If you take the next 48 hours after that, it's probably going to be another 10 or 15 million. That's a large amount of money. Large amount of money. So then, Biden comes up with this, I think yesterday, some cockamamie ceasefire thing that he said Israel gave him or approved. All over the Israel social media, we're reading Israel never wrote that, never approved it, never had anything to do with it. So Biden's running around saying, oh, yeah, this is Israel wants this. And Obama came out and endorsed it. Now, we see Obama moving out from the background in the basement to openly. It basically, I read it and it's so stupid, and Israel's never going to do it. What it's saying is no return of hostages initially, a permanent ceasefire, an Israel withdrawal from Gaza, so the soldiers go home or they go to Lebanon. They leave the Rafah crossing alone, so Hamas would be free to smuggle more tunnel making equipment like concrete and steel girders and steel doors and generators and things like that into Gaza, along with all kinds of missiles, rockets, and weapons. And that's Egypt's role, is to collaborate with our enemy, because they're our enemy. We exposed this thing with so many. I think they got total so far 82 or 84 tunnels from Rafah, and they found at least one that went deep into Egypt. So it probably wasn't 100 feet. It might have been a mile or something. I don't know. But, Egypt is definitely doing that. And this also leaves Hamas not only in military control in Gaza, but also political control. And then Biden says, well, if they ever break the ceasefire, you can always start attacking them again. Yeah, that's what he says now. He won't stick to that. No hostages coming back. They say after you've removed yourself from Gaza, then we negotiate a hostage exchange for prisoners in Israel that are terrorists. So they're going to say that, to give you back 30 hostages, we want, 3,000 prisoners released. Something like that, right? So the deal is absurd. But what's Biden going to do is he's going to try to bribe Israel to accept it or force Israel to accept it, likely in that order. So what Biden's doing here is this. He knows that if any leader in Israel, like Netanyahu, goes for this, within hours there'll be a vote of no confidence and they'll throw Netanyahu out of office. And they can do this all in one day or 2 days and get another prime minister who will not accept this ceasefire. What Biden plans on doing is pressuring Israel. Now, let me explain. You got to watch the subtleties. Biden is not going to assemble 100 or 2 or 300,000 soldiers from America, UK, and NATO and go take out the Houthis. It's not worth it. They need their military to protect the UK homeland, to protect American homeland, and to uh, protect Europe. And he's not going to drop that down for the Houthis. They're not worth it. Okay? So, how he's going to put pressure on Israel, I'm not sure yet. He may force a ceasefire on Israel. And I suspect he's moving in that direction because he's running around getting support for the ceasefire from other countries. He could do it through the UN Security Council, where they militaristically, where they first is they got to get it to the UN Security Council, then nobody got to veto it, and then they would make it an order to Israel to do the ceasefire. It wouldn't be unenforceable, it would be an actual order from the UN. They would give Israel a short amount of time to comply, not 30 days, maybe a week. And that would be all the matter. It wouldn't go any further. Unless Israel didn't comply. Then they would go back to the UN Security Council and they would file a motion for enforcement. Which the same people would pass. And the enforcement would be to raise a military force to go to Gaza and insist on a ceasefire. So they would not start attacking Israel. They would start putting troops into Gaza, which is a little tricky right now because they don't have their pier anymore to land on. But they say the pier will be repaired in 10 days and then towed back to Gaza. So the timing of getting the pier back might work. Then they can just land ships directly in Gaza. Now, Hamas doesn't want this, but I don't know to what extent they'll shoot at them. They'll definitely do token shooting at them, some mortars and missiles and rockets, but I don't think they'll do anything substantial. Then the soldiers would come in and supposedly force Hamas from firing anything at Israel. How they'll do that escapes me. Because Israel's in there in numbers and we can't force it. Will these troops shoot at Hamas? Probably not. But if Hamas shoots at these troops, they probably will defend themselves. Not overly aggressively, but they'll defend themselves. They'll have tanks, armored personnel carriers. They'll have, in the latter stages of this, when it's not working, they'll probably have aircraft like Cobra helicopters, attack helicopters, maybe even fighter jets. But I don't know where they're going to land the fighter jets, but the helicopters is no problem. They could bring one of these or two of these. America has, I think, better than a dozen or some huge amount of these small aircraft carriers. They're about 900 feet, and they launch vertical takeoff fighter jets, which F-35s can vertical takeoff. And they also carry they could handle maybe 8 to 12 of these jets, and they could handle perhaps even a little more on the helicopter front. So for Gaza, it's a formidable force. America has a lot of these, and they don't consider it a high-risk capital ship like the Dwight D. Eisenhower, which could carry 80 or 90 jets, and it's way more deadly. These boats also can carry 1,500 expeditionary Marines per boat with a limited amount of equipment, like they could bring mobile artillery, Humvees, armored troop carriers, supplies, tents and food and medical and all kinds of things like that. So I would think if they send two of those to Gaza, to the pier, they could offload the soldiers, which would now be 3,000 Expeditionary Force Marines. So these are not special forces, but they're an advanced, they're not run-of-the-mill infantry, they're more advanced. And give them several pieces of, armored tanks, armored personnel carriers, armored Humvees. And I think this is the next stage. And the soldiers are going to come in and they're going to demand in the name of the UN that Israel withdraw its troops. And what Israel's going to do at that point, I don't know. The troops will be highly ineffective at stopping Hamas from shooting missiles and rockets. They'll be highly ineffective of getting the hostages back. They'll be very highly ineffective, and it's quite likely that Hamas would start killing them. This is such a hot political topic about genocide in Gaza that I don't think Biden's going to want his troops to do much of anything about anything except try to scare everybody with his presence. Now, this is going to be a real dicey project, but I think that's the only way Biden can go, because this is why. Biden, as his role in the head of the daughter of Babylon, has to do something about the Houthis, because they've taken over world shipping in a major portal, the Red Sea. Biden does not want to go to war there. He's scared, but they're not stopping. So Biden and Blinken and Jake Sullivan and Austin, the whole collection of these nincompoops, think that if they get a ceasefire in Gaza, the Houthis will stop. I'm telling you, that's far from the case, and I will explain it. The Houthis see America as weak. That's why they fired on their aircraft carrier. They did not think the American aircraft carrier would stop and start launching squadrons of 25 jets. Well, that's a lot, maybe, 10 at a time, and start bombing more targets in Yemen, which would have been a more appropriate reaction. But they didn't do that, the Americans. So the Houthis figure that the Biden administration is afraid to have a war. They don't. They're right. America is afraid to have a war. So if America stops the war in Gaza, the Houthis are not going to stop. What's the next excuse? Well, there'll be two, I think. The next one will be we're not stopping till there's a Palestinian state. We want Palestine to have its own port, its own airport, its own autonomy, and not be under any influence and control of Israel, and to be able to have free access to Egypt. And we want the West Bank as part of that, or we're not going to stop. You can take that to the bank. That's the next, because they're going to see, and Iran's going to see America's weak and scared. Why should we stop here? They're going to keep it up. And Biden and his team, the ex-Obama people, are not bright enough to understand this. Believe me, they're not. Blinken, a couple of weeks ago, went to some Muslim states, Saudi Arabia or UAE or something, and he did a rock and roll guitar concert. What kind of derelict is this, Austin is far from in his prime. He's just one of them. He's not real bright. Not that his predecessor was either. Nor that predecessor. They're not that bright. And Sullivan's another loser, and so's Biden, and Obama's in the mix of this, another loser. So they're not real smart. The only thing these Islamist terrorist states understand is what Israel's doing to Hamas. Coming there with overwhelming power. The reason Hamas hasn't thrown in the towel and surrendered is because they're getting the nations to rise up with demonstrations and screaming and yelling to create by force a Palestinian state, which would assure them within months of being able to wage an attack on Israel that would be far in excess of what we've seen and destroy Israel. Now, Israel will not agree to this, but the United Nations seems to be taking it upon itself, slowly but surely, to force these things on Israel. Now, the time is very, very short. I don't think it'll ever get there. The year of recompense is the latest it'll be over is something probably like August 3rd or something, okay? But it could be over in 3, 4, 5 days. Zechariah 12 is where we go with this. I'm going to cover the scriptures a little bit later. Zechariah 12 says, many nations form a siege around Judah and Jerusalem. God doesn't refer to it as Israel, so it's the time is now. And the two witnesses are there, and they burn them up on the right hand and the left. It says they burn them up like, stubble in a fire. That's the fire out of their mouth. That's who that is. And then you see the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man, which we're going to cover a bit later. Right at that same time, it would probably precede the two witnesses burning them up, or it's at the same time, or something like that. Probably precede it. Okay, so there's not a lot of time for them to do a whole lot of stuff. God's not letting Israel go down. Okay, you're not going to see the Israelites leave Israel and all that stuff. You're going to see 2/3 get cut off because of their wickedness. And it's in Zechariah 13:8 and 9. But you're not going to see the country fall and all that. God's going to kill the bad shepherds, which is the government and the rabbis and the rich people that push everybody around with the corruption and all that. That's what you're going to see. 2/3 of Israel go. And it's going to be the poor and the downtrodden and the feeble and the hunched over. And these are the people that are going to get the redemption with the eternal life. Not immortality, not a spiritual body. They're going to live a really long time like they did before the flood, only more so. My people's days will be like that of a tree. A child shall die 100 years old. This is the scripture that's being fulfilled. It's not Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog's going to happen almost 70 years down the road. And it's going to be a falling away. Israel hasn't gotten established yet. How's it going to fall away? It's not the church falling away. It's Israel. Okay, all Israel shall be saved. Romans 11. It doesn't say all the church shall be saved. The Lutheran churches look upon Israel pretty similar to the way the Muslims do. And the Catholics aren't much better. Come on, let's wake up. So, America doesn't want to recognize the only way they're going to get any respect from these terrorist nations like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iran, and Syria, and for that matter, Iraq, is to go in with an iron hand. Or move away and leave them alone. Just say, we quit, we're going back to America. That's a possibility too. Not a big one though. Pretty slim, but it could be, but I doubt it. Five countries gave Ukraine the green light to use weapons, F-16s, missiles, etc., inside Mother Russia's home territory. Putin is beyond himself. Putin has to make a move against NATO, or his country's going to get rid of him. He has to take a move. And he's so reluctant to do that, it's not even funny. What will Putin's move be? Well, it'll be multifaceted. The first thing well, maybe not so much the first, but one of these moves will be a massive influx of Russian troops and equipment into Ukraine. It'll be a devastating big blow to push Ukraine further away from Russia, to try to get them back enough distance that even these long-range HIMARS missiles aren't going to get to Russia. See, Ukraine's got to launch out of Ukraine. Okay, other countries have not said, you can come here and launch the missiles we gave you from our homeland. because we're closer to Russia. They don't want to take that kind of a chance at this point in time. So if Russia pushes them back, I don't know, let's say 40, 50 miles further inland, it could be that they might still reach Mother Russia, but not any good targets. But if Putin runs them back, let's just say 70 miles, I think that's the end of the missile range, because he already has a good hunk of Western Ukraine under his control. So the missiles aren't going to have enough range to do anything in maybe 80 miles, 90 miles. But that's one of the things Putin will do to stop the effectiveness of these HIMARS missiles. In addition, it gives him more room, more warning time in the event these F-16s get launched. At the present time, there's already 3 pilots in Ukraine that passed the American F-16 training course and have F-16s. So they got 3 pilots that can fly them combat ready and they have 3 F-16s combat ready. So Putin's got massive headaches. Now let's take a look at how much space Putin has occupied in Ukraine. That'll give us an idea of how far Putin has to shove them back. Okay. Let's see if I can get a map with a scale of miles. Well, that certainly doesn't have it. Let's go someplace else. Then I could tell you how far he has to push them into Ukraine. Does this have a scale of miles? All we'll get is a rough estimate, because I'm not entirely certain how far these I can't read that, these HIMARS missiles can go, but we could look that up too. So let's see if any of these maps are worth anything, which Google Maps are usually not that good. I think people just put them up. Boy, let's see if I could find one that's any good. Maybe this one. Let's see. Well, the space Russia's occupying varies all around, but I would say at its narrowest point, it's probably 25, 30 miles, and its broader points, it's probably 75, maybe 100 miles or something. And let's see what the range. It might go 180 miles. So it's going to be a tough move for Putin. Putin's going to probably realistically need to shove them back 100 miles. Now, if the missiles fall, 5, 10, 15 miles into Russia, that's not going to be the end of the world for him. But it will mean he can't keep stores of weapons, ammunition, food, medical uniforms, communication, and all that other stuff right over the Ukraine border inside Russia. You have to go much further deep. Uh, so for Putin to be safe now, he has to go back a good 100 miles further into Ukraine. That gives him somewhat more warning time on the F-16s. Not that much, because let's say he's got a 125, 150 mile throw. That's just a few minutes with the F-16. But a few minutes is vital because they can put a lot of anti-aircraft missiles locked onto it. The F-16s can be made stealthy. They have an ability to paint or cover the whole fuselage with the stealth coating of the F-35. But to make that work, all the weapons have to be contained within the fuselage of the F-16. You can't hang them down outside because that would kill the stealthiness. So the amount of payload that these F-16s can carry, and extra gasoline as well, is severely diminished. But Ukraine doesn't have to go very far and great distances to do it. Now, the other thing Ukraine can do is use the F-16s to stay inside the Ukraine border, maybe by as much as 5 or 10 miles, and launch missiles into Russia from the air. So this is another problem Putin is facing. So Putin also needs to knock Poland out, because Poland is the country that they're bringing, NATO countries are bringing weapons into Poland and then transporting them into Ukraine. So he has to stop the flow of weapons. So it would be logical for him not to attack Lithuania and Sweden and Denmark and to worry about taking down Poland initially, and he would have Kaliningrad and Belarus to help him with that because they're in close proximity. And but what's he going to do? Conquer Poland? Well, NATO's going to come in. You see, so that's why they're trying to get Putin, getting Biden to put a lot of soldiers in the Asia Pacific theater and a lot of soldiers in the Middle East, and then it's going to be more and more unlikely for Biden to get involved in a big way in a crisis with NATO and Russia. In the event that Biden does take the bait, then his country, America, will be severely underdefended. Thinking. So, like I told you, just about everything Biden tries is going to fail. He tried with Trump, many people say, and Trump raised over $52 million in 24 hours. So, whatever he does here in Israel is going to blow up in his face, too. You could take that to the bank. Russia's going to have some severe problems now because they're giving anti-aircraft missiles to Hezbollah in Lebanon to shoot down Israeli jets, which are attacking IRGC positions in and also Iran-backed militia positions in Syria and Syrian, the proper Syrian government's positions. So that the Lord is not going to be happy with. And I think we're seeing the last days of Russia, as well as many other countries. At this point, it's too soon to tell what Trump's going to do about trying to get an uprising against the federal government in America. I have no indication yet if he's going to do it or not do it, but I'm pretty certain it's a possibility. Let's put it there. Iran is afraid to get into anything directly against Israel right now. So they're supplying weapons and money and training and stuff like that and trying to hang around in the background behind the curtains and hope he goes. So it's really a mess. And we don't know how it's going to develop yet in America, but we do know ruler against ruler, and we could say we've seen that. We really haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. All right, I'm going to take a fast break, and we're going to go in a little bit deeper and then get into the Bible. So sit tight. I'm not going to be going a long time. Grab myself a little nibble. Now, the other thing we have to understand is that Egypt has also come out in the open against Israel because they got exposed with their tunnels. They haven't gone to war against Israel yet, but they will in the Bible. So you will see Egypt go to war against us very shortly, and it's brewing up. Okay? So they're going to try to figure out a way to force, get down, Yaffa, no. They're going to try to figure out a way to force, no, Yaffa, no. They're going to try to figure out a way to force Israel into a ceasefire. That's where this is going. And it won't stop there. It's going to include a two-state solution where Israel loses Jerusalem, especially the part where the temple belongs. That is mandatory for Satan. And the Israeli people are in no mood for that. They know the end of that is their death. So they're not going to go for it. So what it results in is a siege, a surrounding of the land that we have now in Judah and Jerusalem. Probably fighting on the borders. An embargo, nothing goes in, nothing goes out, starve us out, stuff like that. And at the right time, the two witnesses burn them up. And Zechariah 12 is Jacob's trouble. Great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Gog and Magog is not Jacob's trouble. Okay? No, stop it. You don't eat this stuff. So, the pieces are coming together. Biden sent the ceasefire to several nations, European, NATO, and they all approved it, of course. Oh, this is a great ceasefire. Hamas keeps the hostages, stays in control, doesn't dismantle militarily. We have to leave Gaza completely, then negotiate with them to exchange prisoners of terrorists in jail for the hostages. And Biden is running around saying people in Israel created this deal. Well, Hamas knows how stupid it is. Hamas will probably say, yeah, we agree to it. And then Biden says, you got to agree to it now. And Israel says no. And then all the blame goes on Israel. And the show begins. And the show is the last act of this existing age. And then we go to the next stage with eternal life, which is brought on by the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, as per Zechariah 12, verse 10 specifically. Verse 6 of Zechariah 12 is the two witnesses burning up the enemies, surrounding us on the right hand and the left. Remember, the Bible says in there that the Lord says, I will deal with the heathen like they never heard before. What's going to come upon them in these days is horrible for them. all the nations in the world are run by the God of this age. It doesn't say God of this world, God of this age, which is Satan. When Yeshua appears in the clouds, that's the sign of the Son of Man, not to return to earth. That's the close of the age, because those that see him that are believers get eternal life. And he puts it on Israel in general, too. And that's the end. That's the redemption of Israel. And that's the end of the reign Satan has forever and ever. He never gets it back. To that extent, never ever. There will always be an Israel that will resist him. That is with God, that has God fighting on their side. So, Satan is not happy. So the things that would make Satan happy is everybody in Israel gets killed, and it becomes a Muslim country. But he would settle for just letting Hamas live doesn't help Satan that much. We still have the Jerusalem area where the temple was. East Jerusalem specifically. So that doesn't help him. So don't think things are going to stop there. What helps Satan is if we go to the pre-67 borders where we don't have Jerusalem, the part where the temple is East Jerusalem, and we lose the West Bank, then Satan can establish a big military base with the Muslims in the West Bank and rebuild Gaza and Syria and so forth and come at us again for another crush to get the end of us all together. But if he could get East Jerusalem, which is where the temple really is, away from Israel to the Muslims, then he can breathe easy. Right now he can't. He doesn't care about the Houthis one way or the other. He doesn't care about Hezbollah one way or the other. He doesn't care about Hamas one way or the other. He cares about getting us out of Israel, but he'll settle for putting an end to us having the area of Jerusalem where the temple goes. And that is where he will probably stop and take a break, but it's not going to happen. You're never going to read this in the media or on the news because they're never going to start talking about Satan's the God of this world. All the world leaders are with Satan, or they wouldn't be the world leader. You know, they never talk like that. But that's the reality. So don't think things are going to ever stop over Lebanon or Gaza. They won't. If you think Biden is a Bible-believing person, you need to go to a psychiatrist, okay? If you think Trump is a Bible-believing person, you got to go to a psychiatrist also. They're Satan bots like the rest of them. Biden wants to shut the war down so Hamas could be around to play again another day and kill Israel. Just getting East Jerusalem back is not enough, because there could be another war and Israel could take it back again. He's got to get rid of Israel. Ultimately, he would want to kill all the Jews, like what Hitler was going after. But right now, Satan's in big jeopardy, and he's aware of it. So Biden's goal is that of Satan, and that is a two-state solution. Pre-67 borders, and Satan breathes easy. So they'll offer Israel all sorts of things: money, defense, weapons, treaties, Abrahamic Accords, all kinds of things. Just give up East Jerusalem and the West Bank. But it will be done in such a way that the Muslim enemies will rise up again and be way more successful in destroying Israel the next time. Which would probably just be a matter of weeks or months. If the West Bank becomes a Palestinian state, Israel has no authority. Weapons would come in from Jordan or by air. They would accumulate hundreds of thousands of terrorist soldiers from the Iraq and Syria militias, from the Houthis, from Hezbollah and Hamas. The IRGC would be there. I would say you'd have at least 250 to 500,000 soldiers there. They would accumulate all kinds of missile launchers, mortars, artillery, tanks. It would be a joke. They would immediately go to work on this. So Israel is not going to agree with it. And the next result of that is going to be Zechariah 12. We're at the end of this, okay? Now, the beast gets rid of the whore. The whore is Columbia, District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., the capital, the Statue of Liberty, the Columbia Motion Pictures icon. I've covered this a number of times. And that's the image of the whore that they made. So they want to get rid of, the beast wants to get rid of America. Why? America is a waste of time for Satan and the beast. The beast and Satan are buddies, okay? It's failed. Okay? Israel's still kicking. It doesn't know what to do. So the beast has turned many countries against the whore. China, North Korea, Russia, Kaliningrad, Belarus, Iran, Yemen, Gaza. It's not really a country. Cuba, Venezuela, and other Muslim states don't like America. Okay? And they're going to destroy America, and they have the sleeper agents. Now, America said that 30,000 Chinese came in just in San Diego since October 7th. Just in San Diego. And you got millions of sleeper agents. These people coming in are not families and not women to speak of. They're 70% military age males. Okay? If you had just 30,000 going through San Diego, I think we could conservatively say you probably got 50,000 Chinese that came in through the other entries. Okay? That's 35,000 sleeper agents that are Chinese. What the heck are they there for? And I'm sure Russia has them, and Iran has them, and Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and Hamas, and other militia groups, and North Korea probably has them. And who knows who else? And they're controlled by China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. That's who calls the shots. And America is failing Satan. Okay? They haven't done very good. Look at how far Israel has gone. Gaza is a garbage dump. 85% of the homes are destroyed or damaged. The stores, the shops, the same thing. The sewers, the electricity, the water. The traffic lights, everything. Biden's ceasefire talks heavily about rebuilding Gaza. What do you think they're going to rebuild? The tunnels. Oh. And the houses and all that. They're not going to let Israel get any more land. They hate Jehovah. They hate his guts. They hate Yeshua. They love the demons. They say the demons made me what I am today. Look, I have mansions, jets, armies, I owe it all to Satan and the demons. That's how they operate. That's why in Jeremiah 30:11, Jehovah says he destroys all the nations he exiled the Jews into, the Israelites, because they were so badly treated, because of Satan. Was Hitler not with Satan? Come on. Was Stalin, who killed possibly more Jews than Hitler, although he killed lots of other people too, was he not with Satan? Of course he was. In World War II, did Great Britain not turn away shiploads of Jewish refugees from Europe escaping Hitler trying to get into Israel? The UK had quotas. They fired with their naval artillery at these ships, hurting them, damaging the ships, sending them back to Europe where Hitler put them in the concentration camps. That's what the UK did. It's documented. America did it to one ship, and they did have to go back to the concentration camps. It's a lot more long, dangerous, treacherous trip to go from Europe to America than to go from Europe to Israel. Because the Atlantic was full of Nazi submarines looking for what they could sink or capture or whatever. If they caught wind of a boat of Jewish refugees escaping Hitler, they would have just sank it. Would have asked for orders, and Germany would have said, sink it. They're an enemy of the Reich. Of the Reich, sink it. Biden is failing Satan. And these nations are going to attack America. It's God's plan, but Satan probably thinks it's his plan. And they're going to take down America. And that's in Isaiah 47, Jeremiah 15:51, plain as day. And that'll happen by October 3rd or 4th or something like that. It's brewing so intently. some of these protesters in California, I don't remember what part, northern or central California, were chanting over Rafah. And they were saying something like, if Rafah's going to burn, meaning the bombings, I guess, let Los Angeles burn. So they're already threatening and torching Los Angeles. Well, America gets destroyed by fire. Are they going to pull through in this threat? Very likely. Satan's mad at Biden. Biden's not getting the job done. So he's going to light a fire under Biden by giving him a hot foot, start burning cities. The people are going to put tremendous pressure on the American government. Biden doesn't know what to do. He still thinks there's time prophetically for another election and him to be president of the United States. America has dropped the ball. Satan wants the Islamic people to run things because they are the ones that will kill the Jews and kill Israel. The Christians don't do that. The Hindus don't do that. The Buddhists don't do that. The Catholics don't do that. The atheists don't do that. The LGBT doesn't do that. Who does it? Just Islam. China's not now coming over here and saying we got to kill the Jews because they're an enemy of communism. I never heard that. Satan's plan, once he gets rid of, if he ever did, he never will, if he ever got rid of, God forbid, got rid of Israel, then he would switch the people over to straight up idolatry, as in the image of the beast that he gives life to and talks, causing the people to worship the beast. But that's not going to happen for about almost 70 years. Okay? And that's a whole other story with the mistranslation in Daniel 9:24. It says, doesn't say 70 weeks, it says there's 2 70s. Every single Hebrew manuscript says the same thing. The English translations, except for one, Smith's literal translation, which she self-published in the 1800s, always says 70 weeks. The publishing houses don't want to publish a translation that conflicts with church doctrine because who the heck's going to buy it? They won't publish it. It doesn't mean that nobody translated the Bible correctly other than this woman named Smith. It means that the publishing houses won't publish it because it's a financial disaster. Somebody shows up in the church with that kind of Bible, people will call him an apostate. It ain't gonna happen. Let me look at the chat and see if I have any questions. Then we'll get into the Bible. I don't have any prayer requests. Let's see if I got any garbage to throw out of the chat. I probably do. It'll be fast. Someone said nothing's going their way. Well, that's a sign that God's way is not their way. And God's just getting you to follow his way. The best thing you could do is stop looking for people to help you, look for God to help you, and ask God what you must do to make your ways acceptable to him, and then do it. Ask the Lord what you must do to make your ways acceptable to him, and then do it. That's trying to get help, from people when you have problems like this, isn't really going to do you a lot of good. Okay, let me get back here. Okay, I'm going to go through Isaiah 26, which is very interesting scripture. Now, this was a special request from somebody, and I want you to know I do try to work in special requests. It may take a few days, but I'm here to basically teach the prophecies relating to Israel and other countries as they, affect Israel and stuff. So I may or may not, tackle every topic people give me. Okay. Isaiah 26 verse 1. In that day, there we are. That day. That's that day of Zechariah 12, I believe. Shall this song be sung in the land of Judah? Now, that's not Israel, so, we don't have all the land. We have a strong city. Salvation will God appoint for walls and bulwarks. The word for salvation is actually Yeshua. Yes, it is. Strong's number 3444. Mm-hmm. We have a strong city, Yeshua, and it says, will God appoint? Okay, that's not what it says. It says, Yeshua, God's not there, appoint walls and bulwarks. So Yeshua is going to be like the defender of Jerusalem, the land of Judah, or salvation. Okay, could say salvation, your salvation, which is your redemption, which is the eternal life, and the whole thing's tied together. Open you the gates, that the righteous nation, which keepeth the truth, may enter into. Now, whose gates are we talking about? Well, what it really says, that the righteous goyim, which keepeth the truth, may enter in. Okay, I need to explain this to you. And I will. Ezekiel 48, I believe. Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe I got it wrong. Let me see. Talks about how the land's going to be divided up. Still scanning for that verse. I'm pretty sure it's in Ezekiel 48. think I found it. It, let me get back up here. It's in Ezekiel 48, verse 31. And the gates of the city, which would be Jerusalem, shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel. Now, that is the same as applied to New Jerusalem, has 12 gates, each one is a giant pearl guarded by an angel, and each gate named after one of the tribes of Israel. So if you want to get into New Jerusalem and you're not in one of the tribes of Israel, you ain't getting in, which means that all the true believers are really Israel, the true Israel. The flesh won't get you into New Jerusalem. So, and the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel. 3 gates on the northward, 1 gate of Reuben, 1 gate of Judah, 1 gate of Levi. And at the east side, 4,503. The east side, 4,503. Oh, 500 is giving you the size of the land, I believe. And then it says, and 3 gates, and 1 gate of Joseph, 1 gate of Benjamin, and 1 gate of Dan. At the south, 4,500 measures, and 3 gates, 1 gate Simeon, 1 gate Issachar, and 1 gate Zebulun. And the west, 4,500 with the 3 gates of Gad, Asher, Naphtali. And it was round about 18,000 measures, and the name of the city from that day shall be Jehovah Sham. Sham means there. You know, you say Efo Auto, where's your car? You point Sham. It means there, Thre. So, the opening the gates would be these gates to let the Goyim, which is generally referred to as the 10 tribes, come in. That's what that's talking about. Open you the gates that the righteous heathen, the word for righteous is tzaddik. Yeah, you could say righteous, no problem. That the righteous goyim, which keepeth the truth, and the word, you got to be very careful with the translations, because it's impossible to translate the Bible correctly unless you know correct doctrine, and they didn't have correct doctrine then. It wasn't revealed. May enter in. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Okay, and right now Israel's still trusting in the IDF and the government, and trying like heck in the flesh to get friends around the world, which is never going to happen. Trust you in the Lord forever, for in Jehovah, no, in the, what are we reading here? Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. It says Yahovah. In the Lord, Yahovah is everlasting strength. Well, everlasting strength is another way of talking about everlasting life, because the excessive strength would come with it, or our extra strength. For he bringeth down them that dwell on high, the lofty city he layeth it low. He layeth it low even to the ground. He bringeth it even to the dust. These are the buildings and the cities that the people serving Satan say, look how great we are, how great Satan is, we built all these cities. That's why he's destroying all the nations he scattered the Israelites into, because they destroyed the Israelites. Not necessarily everyone that lives in the nation would be destroyed. It also says in another place, they'll be going into captivity. Well, why would they be going into captivity? Well, because they no longer have a nation that's livable, like Gaza. They look like that, I guess. The foot shall tread it down, even the feet of the poor. Well, the poor are the redeemed. Okay? Remember, Yeshua was poor too, and you could certainly say he was redeemed. And risen from the dead would be even more so. Seated at the right hand of God the Father would be even more so. But you could certainly argue he was redeemed from a regular life, but he was also born of the Holy Spirit. He was a one-off, the only begotten that way. Even the feet of the poor and the steps of the needy. The way of the just is uprightness. Thou most upright dost weigh the path of the just. So the upright are contemplating the way they're correct people, the people correct with God live. Yea, in the way of thy judgments, O Jehovah, have we waited for thee. Well, that's what we're doing now. The desire of our soul is to thy name, and to the remembrance of thee. The word for name is correct, it's Shem. With my soul, and that should be nephesh, which it is, have I desired thee in the night, yea, and with my spirit, ruach, within me, will I seek thee early. I guess that's in the morning. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. Yeah, and the word will flow forth out of Israel. I think it says Jerusalem. Okay. Let favor be showed to the worked, to the wicked. Yet will he not learn. Yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of the uprightness will he deal unjustly, and will not behold the majesty of the Lord. There's no fear of the Lord, so they get cut off. Jehovah, when thy hand is lifted up, they will not see, but they shall see and be ashamed for their envy at the people. Yea, the fire of thy enemies shall devour them. It doesn't say that. They don't understand, and they're twisting the scriptures to meet the doctrine they believe in. The word for fire is ash, and it means fire. Then it says, of thy enemies. That's not what it says. There's one Hebrew word there called sar. Sadik Resh. it's really saying narrow. Fire, narrow, devour would be burn up. So the word for enemies is, of course, completely off course. Strong's deals with this, let's see. As a place, trouble maybe, an opponent. It's hard to translate. It could be translated as enemies. So if we go with enemies, we say esh for fire, tsar for enemies, burn up. So the fire burns them up. That could be the fires in and about their cities in Jeremiah 50:51. It could be the two witnesses burning them up. It could be both. Lord, thou wilt ordain peace for us. That's shalom, peace. For thou also hast wrought all our works. Let's check the translation on that. To do. It's saying God's going to do. Going to do works. The words in us is added on. So it's saying Jehovah, place or set up, shalom, peace. It doesn't say for us, it just says set up shalom. Then it says for also make what to do, call all works. Okay. Oh, Jehovah Elohim, Adonai, besides thee, have had dominion over us, the demon Satan. But by thee only will we make mention of thy name. So they're only going to make mention of the name of Jehovah, and I assume Yeshua, not the demons' names anymore. They are dead, they shall not live. They are deceased, they shall not rise. Therefore hast thou visited and destroyed them, and made all their memory to perish. The ungodly. Thou hast increased the heathen Does it really say this? Let's see. What it's saying is increase the heathen, Jehovah. Increase the heathen, thou art glorified. Thou hast removed far all the ends of the earth. So he's getting the bad heathen moved over to the ends of the earth, I guess you would say. And then it says Jehovah, and then they say in trouble. That's that SAR word. Yeah, it could mean trouble in a way. Have they visited thee? It doesn't say have they visited thee. It's Jehovah SAR, and then the word Pakad. Let's get that translated better. Hast thou visited them? I don't think visited is. Let's see what Strong's uses for this. Yeah, it's visitation, like a hostile visit. Therefore, visited. iPad issues right now. I'm getting on top of it. So Isaiah 26:16. Jehovah saw trouble, visited in not a nice way, poured out, suk, pour out or melt, prayer, when thy chastening was upon them. Oh, so it's saying when his chastening for the visitation was on them, they poured out prayers to him. Then, probably only then would probably be a better way of phrasing it. Like as a woman with child that draweth near the time of her delivery. That's the travail, the actual birth. The water broke, the cervix is dilated, the baby's head is crowning, that kind of thing, right? The actual birthing time. Time of her delivery is the actual birthing time. She's delivered of the child. Is in pain. It's like twisting. It's just like a funny pain, like the birth pangs is what it is. And cried out in her pangs. There we go, pangs, birth pangs. So have we been in thy sight, O Lord. Well, that's the nation born in a day. That's Jeremiah 30. We have been with child, we have been in pain, we have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have, they didn't bring forth anything good. They're kind of repenting and understanding they were doing things wrong now. We have not wrought any deliverance in the earth. I mean, they didn't get any deliverance on their own. Neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. Now, what does that mean? Any deliverance, well, that word is Yeshua. Salvation is better called salvation. It's the same, they didn't get any salvation in the earth. Neither have the inhabitants of the world. Let's see. Now the earth's probably fallen. This is translated bad. The neither word is translated wrong. 1077. Let's see how Storms puts it. It's just a stinking thing. The word for this is actually Baal. Lamed. Really means a failure. So it's saying neither means failure, inhabitants, the world, fallen. Yeah, that makes more sense. So it's a failure, the inhabitants of the world have fallen, the ungodly. Now he's talking to Israel and saying, thy dead men shall live. Word for live is chaya, means life, come to life. Together with, that's added in, it says, my dead body. It doesn't say all those words. It says carcass or corpse. So it's saying dead, live, corpse. And then it says, shall they arise, which is come to rise or stand up. So it's saying the corpses stand up. Awake and sing, you that dwelleth in dust. For dwelleth in dust means to sing for those that are in mourning for Yeshua, because the Jews would throw dust over themselves and rip their clothes and sit in the dirt. You that dwell in the dust. Now, is he talking about the dead? Let's see, he could be talking about that too. The word for dwell means dwell in the dust. Dwell in the dust means those that, the dead, those that dwell in the dust. The dust. Thy dew is as the dew of the herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. That's the graves opening. That's your dry bones in Ezekiel 37, the first half. Come, my people, enter you into thy chambers. So let's break it down and make sure we know what it's saying. It says come, and that's halak, go. I mean, it would probably be better to say go. Come is, come to me, boy. If you tell the dog, come here, you say boy lepo. Or come to me, really, actually, no. It would be come to me, boy lepo. Okay. So it's saying, since this doesn't say boy, it's basically saying go. Go, people. Enter, let's check that, or go in. It's saying go in thy chambers. It's saying go in chambers, rooms. Like an apartment or something, or a house. Go. It's saying go into your house or your apartment and shut the door. Let's check the words. Cigar. Close the door. Close. Close. Del it. Close the door of the gate. Hide thyself. Let's check the word for hide. Withdraw. Not exactly hide. Withdraw yourself. Or really just says withdraw for a little moment. And the word for little is me'at, and that means little. Moment, that's rega, and that could actually mean a second too. Like, I'll be with you in a second would be rock rega, you would say. When someone's talking and you want to interrupt them in Israel, you would go like this. That means I want to cut in, and you might want to say rock rega, just for a second. And, you want to say they said something wrong or whatever. Until the indignation, that means the anger, is past. That's God's anger. So it's saying here, enter into your chambers, or where you live, and shut your doors about thee. The thing means hide. Let's see how Strong's deals with it. Secret yourself. Yeah. Sort of like just go hang out in there, Stay off the streets, that sort of thing. Hide thyself, it is for a little moment until the anger be overpassed. Okay, that's what that's saying. There's a lot of poor translation in here. Now, speaking of poor translation, I want to drop a bomb in Matthew 24. It's a good bomb, but a bombshell. Okay, starting in 1. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple. So the Bible calls Herod's temple the temple. Yeshua referred to it as my Father's house shall be a house of prayer when he chased the money changers out. So it was a legitimate temple. And his disciples, it was considered a real temple. And his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yeshua said unto them, See you not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So this means the Wailing Wall is not the Wailing Wall. What it is the wall left over from the Roman fort, very close to where the temple was built. All the stones of the temple, including the wall around the temple, would be thrown down. It says, there shall not be left here. And what is the word for here? Well, it's the Greek, I don't know. In this place, it means in this place. Hod, in this place. One stone and another that shall not be thrown down. So, that makes, by them doing that, they make Yeshua out to be a false prophet, okay? Which is not the case. This place would, of course, constitute the protective wall around the temple. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? That's the stones being thrown down. And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Now, first mistake in the translation is gross. It says world, and that is absolutely not the case. The word is ion. It does not mean world. World is a different word, or 2 or 3 different words. This word means age, A-G-E, age. The transliteration from the Greek into the English is A-I-O-N, ion. I think you might even do that as A-E-O-N. But we're just talking transliteration here, not a real language. So he's saying, what they're asking Yeshua is what, and then it says, the sign coming and end of age. Now, the coming word needs to be looked at very carefully. It's 3952 in Greek. It is parousa transliterated, and it's generally, they teach you it's some sort of a rapture or something, but what it really means, Strong's first interpretation of this word into English says a being near, an advent, return. Okay, now what this is referencing, and the clue is the end of the age, the old age, where Satan's God of the age, right? That's the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man. That's what this is talking about, not the return of Yeshua to earth. And this has been covered up for 2,000 years, roughly. And Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name. In other words, they'll say that they're a servant of Yeshua HaMashiach or Jesus Christ or something like that, right? Come in my name, saying, I am Christ, the anointed. That's what the word means. Anointed comes from Christos in Latin. comes from Mashiach. In Hebrew, it means anointed. So his name is Yeshua, anointed, the anointed. And shall deceive, saying, I am Christ, and deceiving for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and shall deceive many. Now, this isn't a false Christ. This is a false believer that's saying, they're a believer in Yeshua HaMashiach and all that. And they'll confess that Yeshua is a Messiah, and then they deceive many. We know who that is. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these must come to pass, but the end is not yet. The end. The end of the age is not the end. The end is after the millennium is over, right? That's so you're going to see these birth pangs and things, and that's not the end of the age. Not the end. He doesn't say the end of the age. He says the end, which should be the word telos. It is. That's the end, the end. That's after the millennium's over, Satan's released and all that. Okay? 4, then it goes on and says, nation shall rise against nation. It's saying heathen. Goyim shall rise against Goyim. And kingdom, that's basilia, reign or power or kingdom, against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Those are birth pains. All these are the beginning of sorrows, the beginning of the birth pangs. We're advanced, we're finished with the medium. So he's saying here in verse 7 of Matthew 24, one heathen nation's going to go against another heathen nation, and one basilia or kingdom or reign of power will go against another. That tends to probably mean one of these is one country fighting another, probably the first one, and the second one is one group of people against another, like civil wars. There shall be famines, we know what that is, pestilences, that's very broad, and earthquakes in diverse places, yeah, we know that about that. All these are the beginning of the sorrows, the birth pangs. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And I think it's when it says they shall deliver you up, he's speaking directly to the apostles there in this verse, Matthew 24:9. And then shall many be offended, and shall be betrayed one another, and shall hate one another. Well, we see that. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. They're all over the place. Look, go on YouTube, you see them like crazy. Facebook, anywhere, the general internet. They use dreams. They say dreams, that's a false prophet, and so forth. And because lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Well, there is lawlessness. The Jews aren't following the law. The church isn't following the law. Basically, nobody is. There's no priesthood, no temple, no altar. And the love of many is cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. In other words, you don't give up, you don't sell out, you don't stop becoming a drunk or a drug addict or whatever. And this gospel, if you want to get your mind off of it, take a walk, watch something interesting on the internet that's not, obscene or anything, or whatever you want to do. Go have a hobby or something. You can do things like this. Some of you might like cooking. Go cook yourself something elaborate and get wrapped up in it for a couple of hours. That get your mind off it. I know if you keep your mind on the wars and all the bad stuff, it can, it can get you down. Read the scriptures. That'll lift you up real good. And this gospel of the kingdom, that's the real gospel, shall be preached in all the world. Let's check that word for world. Let's not get caught speeding here. The inhabited earth. And all the land, I think it says. Hold on. No. This is not. Okay, this is after Zechariah 12. Okay, so I'll interpret this. This gospel, the true gospel of the kingdom of God, shall be preached in all the inhabited land as a witness unto all the goyim, the heathen, and then shall the end come. That's not the end of the age, that's the end, okay? So after Zechariah 12, the gospel is going to be starting to get preached around the world. That's when that'll begin, the real gospel. I mean, it started now. We're in the days of Elijah, but not in the fullness by a long shot. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Now you read this in Daniel chapter 8, Ezekiel chapter 8, rather, Ezekiel chapter 8. It's the image of jealousy, and it stands in the northern gate between the inner courtyard and the outer courtyard. And we've covered this many times. It's found in Ezekiel 8. And when you read that, make sure you read Ezekiel 9, where the angel puts a mark, which can be the name of Jehovah, his mark, in the foreheads of those that are grievous of the injustices being done in Jerusalem, and nothing bad happens to them. The others get cut off. This is the Gog and Magog, the end. Well, Let me think. Yeah, this is, well, this is definitely talking about Gog and Magog. Zechariah 12 has no beast, no false prophet, no talking statue, no demonic temple, no marketed beast to buy and sell, none of that. So this would be your Gog and Magog. And it says, what does it say again? When you therefore shall see the abomination desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, who readeth, let him understand. Oh, it doesn't say that's the end. It says just let him understand. Okay. Then let them which be in Judah flee unto the mountains. Well, we see this in Ezekiel, like 11, where the glory of God of Israel opens up the Mount of Olives and they run through it. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and them that are sucked in those days. But pray you that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Well, since he's predicting this way out in the future and he's mentioning the Sabbath day, gee, I guess somebody forgot to explain to Yeshua that the law is dead, like the church teaches. Of course, the church is wrong. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world. Let's check that word. Yeah, we can get away with world there. To this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Now, I believe this is Zechariah 12. What the Lord's been impressing upon me the last few days is that you remember in Revelation 17 and 18, it comes suddenly in a day and an hour, the Washington, D.C. destruction, and then America as well. It's so fast. And Jehovah set it up that way to be merciful unto the believers that are there. So it's not, that's why it didn't start at the beginning of the year, recompenses. It's going to be a very fast thing. And the destruction of the nations is going to be very fast too. And that's the shortening of the days. Okay. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders. Now, that's not going to happen until we get close to Gog and Magog, and then they'll be given the power to have these phony signs and wonders and call fire down. I think the beast does that. And wonders, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. The very elect will not be deceived. The elect, the real ones, will not be deceived. The word for very here is kai, and it doesn't mean very, it means and. They shall deceive the, why is it choppy like this? They shall deceive the, if it were possible, they would deceive the elect, and the elect. Well, they can't deceive the elect. Behold, there's something here with the grammatical of the Greek that's causing two words to be in there. That's why I don't pay too much attention to the Greek. If I really want to know what it says, I look it up in the Hebrew New Testament by Salkinson. That I can deal with. Behold, I have the Greek is a horrible language for the Bible, and the Hebrew is a perfect language because it has a concept which is from now forevermore into the future, and stuff like that. The Greek was never, the New Testament was never written in Greek. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. So when Yeshua appears in the sky, they're going to tell you, oh, he appeared and he came here. He's sitting in the Empire State Building, or he's sitting here in the Eiffel Tower, or whatever, It could be anything, okay? Don't listen to it. Now he's saying, for as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Let's look at that word coming. Perusa again, the advent, which should mean the rising up in the clouds, but it means basically being near. That's Strong's first interpretation of it. Being near. That's him appearing in the clouds. He's near when he's up in the third heaven with Father God Jehovah. He's not near. You got it? That's all this is. Also the coming, the being near of the Son of Man, which is Yeshua. This is how he's going to appear. Seated on the right hand of power. He's going to be on the right hand of God the Father. That's power. Psalm 110:1. The Lord said to my Lord, sit down at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. When this happens, God the Father, God Jehovah, has not yet made Yeshua's enemies his footstool. So he's still seated on his right hand. They came together down to appear in the clouds. They're not touching down on earth. For wheresoever, if Yeshua or Jehovah touched down on earth, what do you think would happen? The earth is so dirty now, full of the blood from murders, full of unclean things, carcasses and whatever, full of idols, temples, shrines to false gods, people worshiping false gods. What would happen? I can only guess. It would melt, it would burn up, it would fracture into pieces, all of the above. Yeshua is as holy as Jehovah. He's been sitting next to him for 2,000 years. What do you think, huh? Why can he come down with New Jerusalem later on? Because after Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38:39, God gives us a new heaven and a new earth that no longer is defiled. It doesn't have any of these idols and shrines and temples and blood in the earth and dead bones and all this sickness, right? It's not there anymore. It's a new heaven and a new earth. And thus, New Jerusalem could land down and Yeshua could come and it wouldn't fracture, melt, burn up, or whatever, because it's a new heaven and a new earth. So how the heck is Yeshua going to come down with New Jerusalem now? Where's he going to put New Jerusalem, by the way? It's 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles and 1,500 miles high. So what's he going to do? Crush everybody in Israel, around Israel, with it by putting it down on them? Or maybe when there's a Mount Zion in the near future, he's going to come down and set it right by Mount Zion, and maybe there's a walkway or a bridge or something to go from Mount Zion into New Jerusalem. And also the glory of God of Israel is enthroned in New Jerusalem with Yeshua HaMashiach. Have you seen the glory of God lately? I haven't. Where is he? He's not down here. For wheresoever, oh, what a choppy word. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. That's the vultures, the eagles. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be dark. Now he's switching. This is our cue from Joel chapter 2. This is now Gog and Magog, not Zechariah 12. There's nothing in Zechariah 12 about the sun going dark, the moon turning to blood. There's nothing there about the sun going dark, the moon going dark, and the stars falling. That is not in Zechariah 12. That's later on, almost 70 years later, Gog and Magog. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, Gog and Magog will happen in conjunction with the tribulation on the nations, okay? The tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. The stars fall like figs from the tree. That's the great day of the Lord. After that, you get the new heavens and the new earth. And then shall appear, he's switching the subject here. The Greek, they don't know how to translate it. They say and then. It's shall appear the sign of the Son of Man. He's not a sign when he comes. Okay, what does the word sign mean? Well, we're working with the rotten Greek. Semeion, sign, a mark, a token by which anything is known or distinguished. So this is not his literal return. This is his appearing as a sign, okay, to us and to the wicked. For us, it's good because it's our redemption and we get eternal life. And to the wicked, it's doom and gloom. You know, they're in trouble now. Satan's kingdom is ended. His reign of the age is finished. Because it says there's this age and the age to come with eternal life. Eternal life is mistranslated all the time. It's not immortality. You can still die. I covered it before. You have very, very long life with great health. Everything works right. The sign of the Son of Man in heaven. So he's not on earth, for crying out loud. He's in heaven. In the clouds. The word is, the clouds. It's the same thing. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. It's the tribes of Israel mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. This is literally right out of Zechariah 12, verse 10. I'll read it. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. So now these Jews, these Israelites, are believers. He poured his spirit out on them. And then it says, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn as one mourneth for his only son. Or it says only, it doesn't say son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for firstborn. In that day there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadramon, and in the land all the families will mourn. Well, that certainly didn't happen when they crucified Yeshua. This is a future event that could happen today or tomorrow, but we're not there yet, okay? That's it. That's what we're just reading. When you're in Revelation 19 and Yeshua comes on a white horse with his garment stained like with blood, and it's a double-edged sword coming out of his mouth, and he comes with all the armies of the angels, must be millions, on white horses. Where's the white horses? I don't see it. Where's his garment stained with blood? I don't see it. Where's the double-edged sword coming out of his mouth? I don't see it. Where's New Jerusalem? I don't see it. You see? This is the problem with the church. This is what they spread. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth, or it means the land, Haaretz, mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And this could be the second Exodus, is one decent interpretation. The other thing is, since he's gathering them from the winds and from one end of heaven, the clouds or something, it could be that the whole earth is already burned up at the end after the millennium. So you can take either way with that. I think it's more of the end of the world after the millennium than it would be the other. Because the other, we learned people carry the Israelites back to Israel like an offering to the Lord. They come on the ships of Tarshish. We don't read they coming back via the angels. But the angels would probably be putting them on the clouds of heaven so they could go up to heaven after the whole world's burned up. And it says you meet them in the air because there's nothing there, you know. So it's probably that. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise you, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Now I need to explain this to you. It's a good, you'll enjoy this. The generation that's experiencing the leaves on this fig tree, that see the birth pangs, what's going to happen to them? The believers and the Israelites are going to be redeemed. They're going to have eternal life. Their life's going to go a long, long time. They only got to make it 70 years for the second 70 of Daniel to be over, and Yeshua will be back. The start of the second 70 of Daniel is the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the sky in the clouds. That's the signal to get out of the daughter of Babylon. Okay? I believe. And the closing of the second 70 is the end of the tribulation and the end of Gog and Magog, when Yeshua returns and the beast and false prophet go in the lake of fire, etc. Okay, Satan goes in the pit, New Jerusalem comes down. So this generation just has to make it 70 years to get into New Jerusalem, and in New Jerusalem you have the tree of life and the water of life, which you could partake of freely, and in New Jerusalem there is no death. So back in the garden with the tree of life, God said, let's run them out of the garden, lest they eat of the tree of life and live forever. So you get the no death in New Jerusalem from the water of life and the tree of life. So it says, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Well, they never really pass, so you'll go up to heaven. So once you make it for the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, you pretty much made it to heaven, but not really, because until you get in New Jerusalem, you could still die, and there'll be another testing, but I don't think the testing's going to bear very heavily on you guys at all. As believers, I just don't see that. You're not going to fall away. I mean, you're not going to, but others will. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Now, is that the sign of the Son of Man, or his return with New Jerusalem? I don't know. It says that day. I don't know. But as the days, and it says basically day and hour, you're supposed to get a good idea of the season. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And the word for coming there is the parousa word again. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, that is probably the Zechariah 12 day. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for we know not what hour your Lord doth come. Now, the one taken and one left, this is not the millennium, because in the millennium will be in New Jerusalem, which has 12 gates, each gate made out of a giant pearl guarded by an angel, right? And the ungodly are not getting in. And it's the ungodly that are taken away. So let's throw that away. It's not the millennium. It's not the days after the millennium when we have New Jerusalem, because you're not going to be living with the ungodly. They're not going to be in your bed. So this takes us to Matthew 13, the tares and the wheat. Now this is where people dislike me. The tares is the darnel, it looks like the wheat. When the wheat bears fruit, it bends over. The darnel gets this black, crappy stuff in there that you can't eat. It makes it toxic and you start shaking. And it stands up straight and tall, like a Satan bot or a false believer that serves Satan but won't admit it and says they serve Yeshua. And they stand up tall because they're proud, they're arrogant, they think they got the keys to the universe, they think they have a covenant with death and hell, which they don't. And they, at the end, their roots are intermingled with ours, and God says don't root them up. The angels root them up because you're not sure, you don't know who they are. Now those are the false believers. They walk around acting and looking like true believers, but they reject the true gospel. They reject true prophecy. They don't do the things Yeshua in the New Testament told them. They do denominations, divisions. They do varying doctrines, variants. They build big houses for their churches. They do many, many evil things. Okay? Many things they're told not to do by Yeshua. They teach the law is dead. They teach contrary to Yeshua. They teach crazy rapture theories, everything. They have a false gospel. They have another Jesus. It says it in 2 Corinthians 11:4. And they receive another spirit. And they're the ones that are going to get cut off. And there's people with them. They're married. They're friends, and they don't know any better. They're true believers in their heart, and they think these people are true believers too. Watch therefore, for you know not. You see, that's why when the people go on the Exodus and they go into the wilderness before they come to Israel, read Ezekiel 20, starting in 33 to the end of the chapter, they pass under the rod. The rod is how the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He doesn't want any goats getting in there. So that's the rod. He holds the rod and they got to walk under the rod and he sees who they are. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. And look something up. This word can mean appear very easily. So it shall appear. See, that's why I wasn't given the exact date the year of recompenses started, because the last day or days of the year of recompenses is the day of vengeance, which also appears in the year of redemption. So there's that little overlap over there. So we don't want the enemy to know when that is. Who then is a faithful and wise servant whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayed his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay. All right. So let me look at the chat and see if I have questions. No, I don't see questions. So I hope you enjoyed today's work. You're real close. So to July to we're roughly within 60 days of it. In there someplace, it could be 5 or 10 days. It could be 25 days. I don't know. We're in that window, I believe. So it's getting close. Not much more to go, huh? Every time I start looking through the news, it just more and more stuff keeps happening. You know, in the Asia Pacific, in Europe, in the Middle East, just in America. South America looks a little quiet, and except for North Africa, it looks pretty quiet. Antarctica is pretty quiet, the number of people living there. Okay. So let me make sure I have no prayer requests. I always worry about that. I don't think I do. No, I seem to have accomplished all I set out to do. Somebody was doing a video. I saw that Allah means the sun god, and they were working it through the Aramaic, where the Arabs got the word and this and that. And, that's not the right way to arrive at that. Look at many of the Muslim nations' flags, and you see the moon on there, along with a sword. that should be your answer. The moon's on so many of their flags. So you have it there. Okay, so I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances and offerings. Could always use that. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos. And like I said, I'll do requests if I could possibly work it into what I'm here to do, which is the prophecies of Israel, which frequently overflows into what happens to other nations, like daughter of Babylon, and the wars and all that. So, I'll try to work it in. It's up to Jehovah, but we'll see. Just send me an email, it's easy, right? It's free. We also do prayer requests, and toss requests if somebody you want, unclean spirit tossed, we'll do that. So, I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And let's see how this works in horizontal here. And I'm out. And we went on for just shy of 3 hours. So it was a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm out. Thank you.